Hello YouTube, it's Immobilized10 here with my thoughts on the official TCG ban list. And yeah, I'm sorry I'm a bit late with this video. I did want to do this video when the ban list officially came out the other day there, but I've been doing a lot of long hours at work and I was just far too tired to do so. Anyway, a lot of people are getting really hyped about this list and they're getting angry that quite a lot of decks that could potentially do well next format have been badly hit and everything. And all I can say about that is just calm down, guys. If you look at the list properly and see what it actually does, then you'll understand, you know, why Konami did it and everything. Also, the 4 ban lists a year, I thought that was only supposed to be in the OCG from what I read, but apparently it's going to affect the TCG as well, which is good in a way because it means that they can address the serious problem of power creep in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, what I mean by power creep, for those who don't know, is just basically like newer cards really out-trump the older cards and older decks to the point where older decks and stuff like that just cannot compete anymore or cannot be played in the game anymore. So 4 ban lists a year, well, that's going to be a good idea. You know, it's going to really I think it will really help the power creep of Yu-Gi-Oh! By balancing out what decks are played and everything. You know, without decks becoming too overpowered and that, and you know, sorts out the problem of like everybody playing the same deck over and over again. Like a couple of years ago, the deck to play was Teledad. That was the only deck to play for pretty much this format, or 2 formats you could say. It's been Dragon Rulers and Prophecy, and I guess a lot of people weren't happy with that fact that no other decks could compete during those eras just because those 2 decks were just far too overpowered. Anyway, as I said, most of the OCG list is pretty much the same in the TCG, but of course there's about 10 or more extra cards that have been added to the TCG, so I'm going to go through them and give you my thoughts and opinions and everything, so I hope you guys enjoy. And as I said, this is just my thoughts and opinions, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. Right, anyway, of course all 4 of the baby dragons for the Dragon Rulers have been banned, which is fine. That's exactly the same as the OCG. However, banned is Elemental Hero Stratos. Now, I did not see this coming, but I don't think it's actually too bad. Now, a lot of Elemental Heroes were a bit pissed off, to put it politely, about this being banned, but the thing is, Elemental Stratos is just far too good, and besides, we do have 3 emergency call and our reinforcements of the army and that sort of thing, you know, to make up for it, which is only fair, I suppose. But it's not just Stratos' effect of adding heroes to your hand or destroying back row depending on the number of heroes you had. It's also the fact that it's a monster, which means you could use its effect and then use it for your super poly combos or other combos that for fusions and that. Also, I heard it was also used, I believe, in a Harpy Dancer OTK deck or FTK deck that was quite popular in Japan, alongside with Birdman and everything. So it's understandable why it's been banned, in case that FTK and everything comes over here, or heroes become too overpowered with any new hero cards that might come out. So it's understandable, a bit sad really for Elemental Hero players, but the thing is, E-heroes are not dead, they're still very, very playable, you just have to work around it. What next? Lightning, that's Rectan Stream. Number 16, Shockmaster. I'm actually kind of glad that card is banned, to be honest, because even though it took 3 level 4 monsters to get into it, if I'm correct, the fact that it just literally shut down everything on the field, it just wasn't a fair card, basically. I mean, you could say the same thing about my Light and Darkness Dragon, but Light and Darkness is a lot easier to get around than Shockmaster, I feel. But just using that kind of card to shut down an opponent's deck and everything was just a bit unfair, so I'm actually kind of glad it's gone. Next is Card Destruction. Now, interesting, since Dark Worlds are the only main deck that use it, but I suppose in a way Konami is trying to take away any overpowered cards that make certain decks really good, even if it's only circumstantial, such as Card Destruction. But Card Destruction, as soon as that was played and the Dark Worlds went off, there was no stopping them basically. But this kind of limits their potential. They're still good, they can still be played, there's still plenty of other draw cards, discard cards they can use, but that one card was what made them overpowered if played correctly, so it's actually, so I can understand why that's been limited as well. Next, Gateway of the Six. I'm actually kind of glad that card's gone. I hated Six Samurai. Six Samurai is probably one of the very few decks I constantly lose against, just because well, you could say Dragon Rulers as well. I didn't win anything against Dragon Rulers, but Six Sams it's a cool deck, but I just didn't like the fact that Gateway of the Six allowed them easy access to a lot of stuff. And as I said, it's Konami, I believe, trying to address the power creep balance in the game, so they're taking away any over-P cards that made the decks far too good or gave decks the potential to just, you know, take you out in a couple of turns, I suppose. It could be that Konami's getting sick and tired of like a duel only lasting a few turns, or OTKs, FTKs maybe, I don't know, but it seems to be a bit of a pattern here. What's next? Heavy Storm and Monster Reborn. I'm very sad that Monster Reborn is gone, because that made summoning of my Blue Eyes from the graveyard so easy. However, it was annoying when the opponent used Monster Reborn against me and then revived my own Blue Eyes White Dragon, which I wasn't so happy about. But I can understand why they've both been limited. They're just so overpowered, they don't have any cost to them. And, you know, I think Konami's trying to like force us, with Heavy Storm anyway, to really think about what back row to use, because in a lot of decks this past format, or a couple of formats I should say, from experience, well, not a lot of back row was used. Maybe the bare minimum magic cards and everything and some traps, but Heavy Storm wasn't really mained a lot because nobody really used a lot of back row except for maybe a few techs and everything. And also it means and also because most of the time the decks were very monster effect heavy. Your monster effects were the ones that got everything going and all that. So I think Konami's trying to step away from having not hand traps, but heavy monster effect decks, and trying to make us use spells and trap cards again, which of course make a full deck, since monsters don't make a full deck. Next was Pot of Avarice. I was a bit surprised by this, because it is a very good card. I think it's balanced, that you have to have exactly 5 monsters in the graveyard before you can activate its effect to draw 2 cards. However, a lot of decks are now fast enough to get 5 monsters or more in the graveyard quite easily nowadays, so I can understand why. And also, it doesn't really have much, like Heavy Storm and Monster Reborn, it doesn't really have that much of a cost. And some decks actually benefit from being recycled, such as the Dragon Rulers. What else? Maybe the gadgets as well, just thinking off the top of my head here. Maybe fairies to some extent as well, fairies decide to come back. So understandable. But I don't think it was absolutely necessary, but you never know, it could. Spellbook of Judgment, that was the same in the OCG. Super Rejuvenation, this was limited in the OCG if I'm correct, and it's now banned in the TCG, and I think it should have been banned totally in the OCG as well, because it was just far too overpowered. And even though Dragon Rulers have been mostly reduced to attribute based decks again, the fact is, you know, that card could still allow a lot of draw power, a lot of like not OTKs, but a lot of really getting through your deck quickly to the cards you need, and really making a mess of you and finishing you off, or allowing the opponent to finish you off in a couple of turns. I'm just going to check. Yeah, it was in the OCG. It was limited in the OCG. I'm just double checking the OCG list at the moment. Right, fair enough. Okay. What else? Solemn Judgment has been banned, and I can understand why it is one of the most powerful counter trap cards in the game, but I thought it was very balanced. You know, you have to pay half your life points, but I suppose towards the end of the game it doesn't really matter too much. The life points difference probably is not too much, but it's sad to see it go. I wish Solemn Warning had been hit, mind you, like banned as well, because I hate that card. But it's still limited for the time being, which is okay, fair enough. But sad to see Solemn Judgment go. Pity. And next is Ultimate Offering. That's been banned as well. I can understand why. Again, potential decks that could come back, like Giraga and Gadget, Modultris to some effect, which can use this kind of card. Obviously to stop them from being overpowered or abusing any certain combos that could potentially come up in the TCG in the future with any new decks or something. Understandable. Limited now, we have Atlantean Dragoons. Now again, I haven't had much experience against Mermils, so I'm not entirely sure what they do, but but of course, as I predicted in my previous videos, I thought Mermils, Fire Fists, you know, that's 6 Sams, those kind of decks would potentially come back with full vengeance. Mermils and Fire Fists being the top 2, but it seems that Konami are really wanting to limit all kinds of decks for next format to an extent where they're still competitive, but they're not so overpowered that they completely dominate the format. Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Spirit, again, that's to limit Fire Fists to an extent so that they don't become so overpowered. Deep Sea Diva, I believe that's the same in the OCG, is it? No, it's not. Well, it's not actually, it's new as well. Understandable, again, because of Mermils or any water-based decks around Mermils or Atlanteans and that. Understandable, and also it's kind of trying to promote, in a way, Synchros coming back. GNX, I have Birdman, that was the same in the OCG. Gladiator Beast of Bastari is still limited in the TCG, not semi-made unfortunately, like it is in the OCG. Probably there's a reason behind it, I wouldn't be so sure what it is. It could be a combination with hero decks, I've heard. I could be wrong. What else? Rescue Rabbit, limited. I don't think Rescue Rabbit deserved to be hit, because it wasn't really much used, and at 2 it was alright, but it wasn't doing as much damage as other decks were doing back when it was semied and everything. It was still a very, very good deck, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it deserves to be on the limited. More than likely what's going to happen next format, it could get banned, like Rescue Cat, and then that's the deck pretty much going to be non-playable as by some people. Thunder King Ryo, I'm so glad this is limited again, because it should never have been semied, in all honesty. I hate that card. Obviously there are some summons that can get around it, but when it activates, or just being able to stop you from adding cards to your hand, it messes up with my Whitestone strategy. And Wind Up Magician is still limited, it's not unlimited in the TCG. I guess I can understand Wind Ups are a potential deck to come back. And that's the thing, I don't think Wind Up Shark's on here either. Nope, Shark's still at 3 over here. Oh dear, Wind Ups are coming back with a vengeance. Evergishki Mind August. If I'm correct, if I looked up the other day, it's like a pot of Avarice for a pot of Avarice in a way. Understandable why it's been limited, because you know, a pot of Avarice affecting a monster that could be resummoned over and over again. Yeah, good recycle there. Duloran, Tiger King of the Icefire. Again, I can understand why that's been limited, you know, potential with the water decks and Mermil decks. Constellar Ptolemy M7. Now, I'm not familiar with Constellars, unfortunately, so I don't know entirely what they do, but apparently Constellars were a good deck, not as good as like Evil Swarms and stuff like that, but still a good potential deck with lots of potential, and in case they do happen to become OP in this format, Konami has hit that deck as well. Next is Dimensional Fissure. I hate that card, especially when it's used in 6 Sams. I'm so glad it's limited for the moment. It can easily be stopped by MST and all that now, since we can run 3 MST. Fingers crossed, but glad it's gone to 1. Hopefully it'll get banned next format. Next, Gold Sarcophagus. This wasn't touched in the OCG, but it has been hit in the TCG, and I'm very glad about that, because 3 Gold Sarc I think was too much. I mean, nobody bothered about it until the Dragon Rulers really came along, and then it just became OP, so it's nice to see Gold Sarcophagus limited at least, so its power cannot be abused again should something similar to Dragon Rulers happens to come out. Royal Tribute. That's a bit of a blow for Gravekeepers. I think Gravekeepers are a cool deck, I just don't like the fact they like to lock down the graveyard. But if Gravekeepers were potentially to come back next format, then the Royal Tribute's been limited, which is fair enough, because Gravekeepers are still a very good deck, a sort of anti-meta deck really. Bottomless Trap Hole, limited, yes! I hate that card. I don't like Bottomless Trap Hole or Dimensional Prison, because I think they just are evil cards that should never have been invented. But finally at 1, it's you know, as I said, Konami's limiting potential overpowered cards in the next format, but it's also limiting and hitting what seems to be back row that was either teched or main back row that was used a lot in previous formats, that caused a lot of problems, that stopped you doing anything, basically. Summoning your monster, playing spells and traps and everything, or, you know, that sort of thing. The same with Compulsory Evacuation Device. That was a tech card, and I've used it myself, and that's been hit because it's just a good wee card there. Eradicator, Epidemic Virus. Only used in Dark Worlds as far as I'm aware, but very good against Prophecy or any decks that rely heavily on spell and traps. So interesting to see on the ban list, or on the limited list anyway, but understandable because, as I said, Konami seem to be hitting not only cards that are going to be overpowered to make some archetypes powerful, but also hitting cards that really reduce the potential of other archetypes, I should say. Well, Soul Drain, again only Dark Worlds used it, but I'm glad it's been hit because I've gone up against them quite a few times and against this card, and I hate it. It should never have been made for Dark World. Torrential Tribute, understandable because if a lot of the old archetypes that are now going to be coming back rely on swarming the field quite a lot, and well, not swarming the field, but being normal summoned and all, and Torrential Tribute was a good tech card, I suppose, and, you know, a bit unfair at too, because it meant that multiple times you could wipe out the opponent's field quite easily and, you know, get your monsters on the field and completely obliterate them, basically. Right, semi-limited now. What else? Mizuki and Plague Spreader Zombie to 2. Fair enough, now you might be able to see some zombie support come back. That would be cool. Also, with Plague Spreader Zombie going to 2, I kind of predicted this, not for the OCG, but maybe for the TCG, because they're wanting to promote synchros again, so it's nice to see some synchro support come back. And as I said, Plague Spreader was good back in the day, it's still good now, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens. TG Striker. Nice to see that come back, I suppose, but it means that, you know, Tech Genis agents or any cards that utilise a Tech Genis engine get a little bit of a boost now, so it's interesting. We'll have to wait and see how that holds. Fire Formation Tenki, same in the OCG. Dimensional Prison, I'm so glad that the card's been limited. I wish it had, semi-limited, sorry, I wish it had been limited, in all honesty. But I suppose Konami have to say, right, we have to give them like some remove and play card that does allow protection, so they've went with Dimensional Prison, which is a pain in the neck. Mirror Force is still at 2. I'm really sad about that. I was hoping it would go to 3 because it would be the only trap card I play in my decks, but unfortunately the TCG have deemed it still too powerful for our format, so they've decided to keep it at 2. Fair enough. And then no longer on the list, Destiny Hero Malicious. Without Stratos, I suppose they had to give some element of hero support back. The Agent of Mystery Earth. Tech Genis agents, fairies, coming back, not good. I mean, fairies are an okay deck and everything, I think they're pretty cool, but with Archlords of Christia specifically, they just lock everything down. A Hero Lives. I'm not entirely sure what that does. I believe it summons a hero from the deck for a big cost of something. I think it's life points. I could be wrong. But nice to, again, because Stratos has been taken away, give some support back to heroes with other cards. Black Whirl went at 3 now. Not semied in the OCG, but 3 over here, which is nice, because it's nice to see Black Wings finally get a boost, because they've been hardly touched for a very long time, I think, by a lot of players. So it's nice to see Black Wings get a big boost. You know, it might be nice to see them because I thought they were an awesome deck. Emergency Call, again, coming off again. Hieratic Seal of Convocation. I'm very happy about that since I play Hieratics, and I have to admit, I might potentially think about making my Hieratic deck much more competitive, like maybe my main competitive deck alongside Blue Eyes. Not too sure about that yet, just thinking. Prodigality, same. Same as it was in the OCG, it's coming back to 3, which I'm very happy about. You know, I think a lot of decks will benefit from this. If they don't like special summon, then hopefully it'll help them get the cards they need a bit faster, give them a bit more consistency. Scapegoat straight to 3 over here. A lot of people are yelling plasma control, goat control, e-hero control or something, goat control, something like that, etc, etc. Fair enough, it's nice to see Scapegoat come back to 3. I know a certain friend of mine will be very happy about it. But as I said, if it is used in plasma control and all that, fair enough, but you know, it's nice to see that an old card come back, but if it does happen to be overpowered for certain combos and that, then of course Konami more than likely is going to put it straight back on the list. But anyway, that's it for the OCG and TCG. What else was there? What else was there? Oh yeah, Gors wasn't hit in the TCG, was he? I'm just looking at the OCG just quickly. No, Gors is still limited over here as well, which is kind of understandable, but it would have been better if Gors had come back to 2, because again, any potential OTKs or FTKs that could come back, Gors can protect you to an extent from. And number 11 Big Eye wasn't hit either, but understandable, again, because Dragon Rulers are pretty much out of it, unfortunately. Yeah, Trishula. I'm not upset that it hasn't come back. I'm a bit, you know, I'm not like mad or anything, but I'm a little bit upset just because I was looking forward to playing that card, and I've heard horror stories of people rushing off to buy Trishula and then, you know, finding out it's not coming back over here and just getting, you know, duped out of £30 or whatever for it. And it's like I said, you know, don't ever go by just the OCG list alone. Always wait for the TCG, because you never know, it could potentially surprise you. But anyway guys, that's my thoughts on the OCG and the TCG list, I should say. You know, I think it's actually a good list. You know, it's, to an extent, it's addressing the power creep in Yu-Gi-Oh! And by doing it 4 times a year, they're really looking to balance the game. And they're not hitting cards, banning cards or limiting cards just to, you know, tick everybody off by limiting like the overpoweredness of decks and everything. They're trying to do it to balance the deck. They're trying to do it to make sure certain archetypes have the potential to be very good in this format, but also that certain archetypes can exploit other archetypes' weaknesses and everything. You know, they're trying to balance it out so that every deck in this format, or for the next couple of formats depending on how long this 4 ban list a year goes, each deck, no matter what kind of deck it is, has potential to do well in tournaments and everything. I think that's what they're trying to aim for. It seems to me like, well, I think a lot of players and some people at Konami are getting sick and tired of all the OTKs, FTKs, formats being dominated by either 1 or 2 decks, or 2 archetypes and everything, etc, etc. And it's, you know, but we'll have to wait and see how it goes. This is the first year of it going, and you know, if it addresses the problems and everything and it works out, then I hope the list when it comes out at the end of December works really well as well. Anyway guys, that's it for this video. Sorry it's been a bit of a long video, been rambling on. Hopefully I'll be getting some real life duels of me and my sister playing. I think it'll be Heretics I'll be playing, possibly, for the moment. Next week I'm on holiday, so more than likely I'll be going into Edinburgh quite a bit to get some duel videos and etc, etc. So fingers crossed for that. Anyway, take care and we'll see you guys later. Bye!